Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Happy New Year, Night fans. It is 2020. Here's to seeing clearly this season about whatever happens in UCF sports. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, and Brian Murphy with you here. We don't have that big of a show to go with you here. You know, it's a holiday. We got the bowl games on. I'm enjoying the last of some holiday pumpkin pie while we're here. And we're here to talk a little hoops. We'll actually preview some baseball, and we'll talk about some all-decade team nominations that we have started rolling out here step by step. Boys, how was the new year? Eric, I'll start with you.
It's a new decade, so I dumped out a lot of the leftovers from the last decade. That's what I've done, so I feel good. It's a new start, a new era. That's what I'm excited about. Cleaned
out the fridge. The way to start that off. That's right.
Right.
How about you, Brian?
Was the food in the fridge for the entire decade?
Yeah, you got some.
Some of it.
Don't tell me you got any chicken wings from 2011 in there.
Some of them were, maybe.
I'm great. I'm well rested because I did not stay up till midnight. I'm in the hashtag of I'm in the group of hashtag New Year's Eve is just another day. So I got well rested, and then woke up early and got to see the live with Eric Lopez today.
Way to get a head start. I actually got a head start on my New Year's resolution on New Year's Eve. Prior to watching the ball drop, I actually watched Star Wars Episode 8.
Don't ruin it.
No, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but I'm catching up on the Star Wars movies. As you guys know, I am notoriously bad when it comes to movies. I have literally never seen any movies.
Don't talk about movies, or else we have to go on like a 30-minute tangent about everything.
I know. Well, you guys can go ahead and do that because I just don't watch movies, and so, yeah. I mean, I still have yet to watch episodes 2 and 3. I got through 7 and 8. I was pleasantly surprised. It was pretty good. You know, I'm enjoying the story so far.
What is your movie genre wheelhouse? Like if you had to
if I had to pick a genre, I'm into biopics. If you ask me what my favorite movie is, it's The Right Stuff.
Mm-hmm. But did you see Rocket Man this year, the Elton John biopic?
I did not. I want to see that. I got to see the Queen one too. I haven't seen that one. And then, but because of course, like journalism movies. First of all, I think all sports movies are terrible because they never get the sports right, and it drives me nuts. And I'm like,
I agree with that.
I know. I just Murph, you and I and Eric, we need to open up a sports movie consultancy, and have them send us scripts, and we look at scripts and we say, nope, that doesn't happen in real life. Nope, stop doing that. Nope. No, players don't lose eyes on the field. Stop it.
The good sports movies are the sports movies that don't focus on the sports, like Moneyball, which is more about people and stuff like that.
Moneyball was good. Moneyball was really good. I that was a very good sports movie. That was technically not about sports. It was about, I don't know, but it wasn't about sports. Anyway, all right. We got lots to talk about. Let's start with we'll hit the movies later. Let's talk about basketball. Boy, that was a bad.
Yeah,
ending.
You see, that not a lot of money was hopefully spent on the basketball game.
Yeah, that was a pretty good movie with a bad ending. 62-58 final on New Year's Eve. UCF loses their conference opener to Temple. Let's not sleep on Temple. They're 9-3. Pretty good team under a first-year head coach. Fran Dunphy's gone. But
they were favored in the game, right, Murph?
Yeah.
I mean, they were favored going in.
Well, it was slight. They were 1 point favorite on the road.
Well, still favorite on the road. I mean, that should count for something. But Eric, you wrote the recap, and we have it up on blackandgoldbanneret.com, and you brought up a very good point that UCF was up by 7 with 5:46 to play and scored 2 points the rest of the way. And that was rough. And there were a number of factors that contributed to that, namely Colin Smith's foul trouble. Colin was in and out of the game, 19 minutes, 4 of 9 from the field. Dre Fuller did have a very good game. You were right about that, 6 of 9 from the field. 14 points, but they just couldn't close out. And Eric, I'll start with you. Do you feel like this could be a recurring theme this season?
Yes, I do. You could argue this is the second consecutive game they haven't closed the game out well offensively. Mm-hmm. And, me and Murph were there, obviously, at the game. And, look, it was a weird game because you looked at the box score, and there was a lot of things that, that UCF was doing well. They were shooting over 50% in the first half, in the game offensively. They seemed to lead most of the way, but yet, they were turning the ball over. They held Temple to about 37% from the field, so I thought defensively they were good. And then that final 5-minute stretch, honestly, the more experienced team took over, and that's Temple. They have players that have been through these battles before. They've been through this situation before, and I think that kind of showed itself. UCF, all those players haven't been in this situation except for maybe Colin, where they've been in a tight game in a conference, and who's going to be the guy that finishes the play or creates the play or closes the game out? We've been spoiled. We've had B.J. Taylor do that for 4 years, basically, and you had Aubrey as an option last year. And I think, Murph, right now, UCF doesn't know who that is or if they have that guy right now.
Well, I think that guy, and Johnny Dawkins said this after the game, that guy for UCF is Colin Smith. However, he, late in that game, they try to go to him in the post, and he turns it over. And he's basically was entire non-factor for half the game because, once again, he gets into foul trouble. And this has been a recurring theme for him of picking up fouls early and going to the bench. And UCF was able to obviously withstand that in this game, and they've been able to withstand it, early, in non-conference games. But you need your best player on the floor, if I may be so obvious. And he needs to do a better job of, guarding without fouling. It really hurt, I think, the team to be without him, even though they withstood being without him. And then late, again, he just, I think defensively they crowded him. They left it up to UCF's wings. And frankly, no one did anything. I mean, we're talking about a 5-minute, 46-second stretch of 0 field goals, 5 turnovers, 2 points, and just really sloppy play. And I think it does come down to, Quentin Rose, your senior star player for Temple, scores the last 6 points of the game. He did not have a good game offensively, but, when it's in crunch time, he comes through. UCF is looking for that guy to make a big shot late. And if it's not Colin, then I really have no idea who it was. For those wondering, no, Johnny Dawkins was not a big fan of that last shot by Cesar de Jesus, coming off a screen for a game-tying 3 that did not hit any part of the rim. It's not what he drew up, but it just goes to show these last 2 games offensively, the defense has been fine. Holding teams to 53 and 62 points, that's fine. But offensively, man, the struggle is real, and it is consistent now, and it gets harder. I mean, now they're facing next up. They have possibly the hardest task of their entire season so far.
Well, here's the number that I looked at that really scared the hell out of me. Dazon Ingram attempted 1 field goal in 36 minutes. 9 rebounds and 3 assists, but a guy with his gifts, when your best player, like you said, Colin Smith, when your alpha dog is in trouble, Dazon as a senior needs to be the guy who kind of steps up. And we've seen him shoulder some of the scoring load on occasion, but only 1 shot attempt in 36 minutes. I'm sorry, man. That's the guy who, in that situation, needs to take the ball to the hole and create and either get some open shots for people or get to the line late in games. And that was surprising to me, Murph.
We've seen him be aggressive too. Like we've seen him be aggressive with the ball, driving. However, this is not like the first time he's kind of vanished offensively. I think he has 4 games with four or fewer field goal attempts this season, and I mean in all those games he played at least 20 minutes. So sometimes he just doesn't. Maybe he's not authoritative enough offensively. I wonder if that's something we'll see change, because they need some injection of offense here, because if it's not Colin, you're really relying on 3-point shooters to be on their game, and that's a risky way to live from game to game. You need guys to score within 15 feet. I thought Dre Fuller was their second best option because of what he was doing without the ball. He was moving really well without the ball on all 3 levels and getting himself open for good shots. But he really disappeared in the second half. And again, he's only a freshman, a redshirt freshman, so you don't want to put too much pressure on him. But yeah, Dazon as a senior who has shown that he can score in the paint and score in the tough areas of the court. Yeah, he's got to do more, and I wonder if that's something we'll see against Houston.
Well, that takes us to what we're going to talk about next, which is this upcoming Texas road trip at Houston on Friday at 7 on ESPN2, at SMU Wednesday at 8 on ESPN3. Quick check of the American standings for hoops while I pull that up, but. Right now, SMU is 10-2, and Houston's 10-3. So those are 2 teams that are off to hot starts. Yeah. So this is going to be a real challenge. And you talked about before on the show, guys, about how you get through these first 4 games at 2-2. I think you got to be pretty happy. Well, you're 0-1, and you blew that first game. So
you needed that.
Well, hold on. I know this is not this will be the first unpopular opinion of 2020, ladies and gentlemen.
You heard it here.
I know this is very unpopular to do on these type of shows, but I'm going to give Temple credit. It's not like they have players that were in the NCAA tournament team. They're not a slouch. I don't think this is. It's funny. I was at the Michigan-Alabama game, and I'm on the field in the pregame, and I have 2 media guys come up to me and say, "What the heck was that yesterday with UCF?" Blankety blank. And then the first thing I had to do is correct him and say, "No, I'm not Brian. I'm sorry. He's upstairs in the press box." But that's I was surprised at how people just flipped out. Look, it's a frustrating loss because you're right. It's a tough stretch here, but I'm sorry. And Murph, I know that Colin Smith, technically, that's who they think is their go-to guy, but I got to tell you, I don't think that's going to work, because I think opponents are going to gear up to stop Colin Smith down the stretch, and they'll double him if they have to, or whatever they got to do, kind of what Temple did. Colin had some opportunities late, lost the ball. There was no fouls called, which is a whole other – the officiating was, interesting. But I think for UCF to be successful in the final 4 minutes, it's going to have to be somebody else in the perimeter, because I think defenses are going to try to take away Colin down the stretch.
And again, maybe like we said, maybe that's Dazon Ingram, or maybe that's Dre Fuller who keeps showing us glimpses. We don't know yet. I will say yes. I gave Temple credit in my story about teaching UCF a lesson of how to win conference games, because they don't know how to do it, and Temple does. Temple's got 4 guys in their starting lineup who are entering their 3rd year playing together. Meanwhile, UCF is using 7 to 8 guys per game that had never played here or never played a conference game before, much less played together. So obviously that's a big factor in this game. This is a team that does not know how to win conference games yet, and Johnny Dawkins also left the door open to the possibility that his team was pressing down the stretch and kind of putting too much pressure on themselves to find that guy and score that bucket, and meanwhile Temple just lets the game come to them. Quentin Rose does not drop his head. He lets the game come to him. He ends up basically winning the game and carrying the Owls to a victory, because that's what senior leaders do. UCF is we've said it all year, UCF is going to find their way throughout the season. It's going to take a while to mesh all together, and while they should have won this game, this probably won't be the last time we have a game like this.
Right, we're going to have a similar conversation down the road, but that's college basketball in this era now. I mean, and Jeff, I'll give you credit. I remember right after, I don't think it was right after the game, but I think we did the show that week when UCF lost to Duke last year in the NCAA tournament, and we recapped the game, and I thought you made a great point, and you said Duke is, as talented as they are, they haven't been in that situation in an NCAA tournament game. They haven't played college basketball longer than a year. Whereas UCF, they had guys that have been playing college hoops 3 or 4 years, and there's
senior leadership.
Something to be said for that. They've been there, done that in close games, and I think that's one of the reasons why UCF was neck and neck with Duke. And I think that's what happened here. And you can't coach it, you can't speed it up. This is a process that UCF has to go through. I thought Dre Fuller was the best player on the court for a majority of that game, and I'm excited about his upside. And maybe as the year goes on, as he develops, maybe he becomes the go-to guy. But he's not ready for that yet. I think this team has to learn, and unfortunately, we're going to have to probably go through some lumps before we get kind of breakthrough.
Yeah, and I think back to, what I think back to, Eric, and Brian, I'm interested to know about this, but I think back to that game at Houston last year where that was a close game on the road. It was Houston's coming out party, and UCF's idea of that was we don't care, and that was a big turning point game. And now here we are a year later, and UCF is going to Houston again, this time early in the season in January. How's this going to turn out? You know what I mean? Go ahead, Murph. You were going to say. I'm sorry.
All right. I mean, this is going to get so confusing because of the arguments we've presented, and now I kind of want to rein them back in a little bit because I think we are getting carried away with the experience storyline here. UCF did not beat Houston because they were the more experienced team. Houston was also a very experienced team with guys like Armani Brooks and Corey Davis. They had seniors as well. It's not like they were a young team. And also in the NCAA tournament, freshman teams have won titles. Freshman teams have gone to the Final Four, beating more experienced teams along the way.
Oh, no. I agree with you, Murph. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that you need seniors. What I'm saying is, though, that the reason why UCF was able to hang with Duke is they had guys that weren't afraid of they weren't afraid. They were seniors. They played college basketball. I do think there's something to that where you've been around the block and all of a sudden you're Duke, you're playing in the second round. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? We're in a tight situation. What are we doing? We're usually blowing teams out. We're not usually tested in a one-point game in the second round of the tournament. Things. And I agree. Same thing in the Houston game. Having guys that have been on the road, I think, helped them get through this. The majority of this current roster has not played in meaningful situations other than Colin Smith and maybe DeJesus where, hey, there's 4 minutes left here, guys. We got to get a bucket on this possession right now to kill this momentum. They don't have that. And we're in a really good league, and Temple has had those players, and Houston has players like that as well, as we'll get through that. But that's all we're saying. We're not saying it's a guarantee if you have experience to win, although if you look at the recent national championship winners in the NCAA, experience has been a factor, a la Virginia, others like that. But
yes, Jeffrey.
Well, I'm not going to further defend my own hypothesis there. I just, it's it's a typical catch-22. You can't learn if you haven't been there, and if you haven't been there, you can't learn. So. I don't know. This week could be a really rough stretch, but you never know. You might catch Houston or SMU on a bad night. Those things also happen. And if you can snag one of these two and then come back home and play well against Cincinnati, who's dealing with their own issues right now, you might catch them on a bad night too.
And the good news is, as I wrote on the recap on blackandgoldbanneret.com, go check it out right now. This defense will give them chances to win games. They're going to keep them in games. They're going to give them chances to win a lot in the conference games. I think they're going to keep them in games. It's going to come down to, can this team figure out who they are down the stretch in fourth quarter? And it doesn't have to be one guy. They might just figure out, hey, this guy can hit certain shots, execute better, whatever you want to say. They just got to figure out who they were because, Murph, I think we can all agree on this. I don't think UCF had any – I don't think those players on the court knew exactly what to do as far as, should I take over right now? Or is he going to take over? and then like,
wait, are you sure you want? Yeah, there was a little bit of that, like, oh God, you want me to take the shot? No, you take it. This is your no. It was like. It was like Danger Mouse. It was like, no, after you. No, after you. That's what was a little frightening. And there was no guy stood there and was like, give me the damn ball. Okay, that's what we haven't seen just yet. Not saying it can't happen, and I'm not saying that that guy can't be Colin Smith, for example, or Dazon Ingram or whoever. But someone's going to have to be that person, and if they do that, and that person comes through, that's a big, huge confidence builder going forward. But I don't know. We'll see. Murph, you heading out to Texas?
Nope.
No, he's sticking around. He's going to watch Adam Amin and Bryce Drew will be calling the game for ESPN2 in Houston on a random Friday night, rare Friday night game on the Deuce there. So that'll be a fun broadcast.
I'll take it.
With Adam, who was in town on Wednesday calling the Citrus Bowl on the ESPN radio. So the guy he just moves around from game to game, man. He's a machine.
It's good stuff, man. And then that SMU game. All right, real quick, Murph, you think they get out of there with a split or what?
No. I mean, I don't know. Well, they certainly, I would say they're not winning at Houston. Not after Houston has had more than a week to prepare, really, after beating a top 25 team in Washington, with at least one lottery pick in Jaden McDaniels and possibly 2 or 3 draft picks on their team. So now this Houston team is really, 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 really good. And I'm sure Kelvin Sampson will still say before the game, don't forget what happened last time we played these guys in our building. Even though these guys aren't the same guys, it doesn't matter. The jersey's the same. That's what matters. He'll remind them of that and get them motivated. And then playing at SMU, possibly that's another game where I think it's evenly matched, but I really
that's their best shot, right? That's their best shot. If they want to get a split, realistically, honestly, their best shot is SMU.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, the spread isn't out for the Houston game, but I would imagine it's probably like Houston -10. That's my general guess. But yeah, and in the SMU game, it's about who can. Well, it's gonna be a close game probably because they're evenly matched. So who can create down the stretch? I don't know. We'll find out. The UCF it's a spinning wheel. We'll see where it lands.
Are you going with a Journey reference there? Wheel in the sky. Anyway.
Speaking of, by the way, the bigger betting question, Murph, is not what the spread is for UCF Houston. You know the spread, and we only get to do this once this year unless they play in the tournament because Houston will not come here. So unfortunately, we can't even do this in person. But the real bet line that we want to know. Over under 30 seconds he takes off the jacket.
I wanted to get to this.
And then over under that Calvin Sampson gets the tie off. Over under 4 minutes. The jacket is I'm going to make it 45 seconds for the jacket.
You know what? When they played Houston, I feel like the jacket comes off almost right away. The jacket comes off within like the first 2 possessions. It's every time. But Calvin's tie, I remember the game in Houston. It felt like it stayed on until like the under 4 timeout of the first half. Like it really, really had a long life. So I would take certainly. I think the jacket's off within a minute at max. But I'm gonna give the tie because it may not be a very tense first half. I'll give the tie until like the under 4. Closer to halftime. That tie's gonna live a while.
I'm going to go over on both because I don't think this game's going to be much of a problem for Houston. I really think that they're ready to take it to us.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that the SMU game is the one that we're going to have to see what we're made of here. But anyway, just to go back over it one more time. Friday, 7 p.m., ESPN2, UCF at Houston. Wednesday, 8 p.m., UCF at SMU on ESPN3. Both of those games, of course, will be on the radio as well, so you can listen to them and watch them wherever you get your ESPN content. Real quick, I wanted to talk about women's basketball because they just finished up their non-conference slate against Central Michigan with a 64-58 victory over the Chippewas on Monday. The Knights start their conference season Sunday, January 5th at noon against ECU. That game will be on CBS Sports Network. Some word on that game against Central Michigan. It kind of played out just like your typical UCF basketball game, where the middle two quarters, a nice just kind of take over, especially on the defensive side. UCF forced 24 turnovers in this game, and 15 of them were steals, by the way. Leading scorer for the Knights was KK Wright with 20. She also had 5 assists and 2 steals. 12 for Brittany Smith, who's really coming into her own right now. Her post game, especially offensively, has dramatically improved. And 10 points for Siani Martin, who came off the bench and put up a good 27 minutes out there. So Siani's actually become a really good scoring threat in the backcourt as well. 12 rebounds for Masni Kaba to go with 8 points and 4 blocks. She was dominant on the interior, but things got a little squirrely in the fourth quarter thanks to Michaela Kelly of Central Michigan, who finished 9 of 19 and hit 6 threes, 26 points. But then she fouled out, and that gave UCF the breather they needed to kind of hold on here. And with ECU coming up, this should be a pretty straightforward start to the conference season for UCF. ECU's not very good, 3-10 on the season.
You can't afford you cannot afford to lose this game. The good news is UCF has moved up all the way up to 57 on the latest RPI with this winning streak.
Yeah.
The bad news is
4 in a row.
Carolina, right? East Carolina's at 225. Do not lose this game, please. I'm begging you.
Just take care.
Take care of business, especially because after this game, you've got Cincinnati, South Florida, UConn, and South Florida, which is going to be one of the tougher parts of the schedule. So, and I remember, Jeff, I think when you said it, I think it was either last week or the 2 weeks ago in the episode, the goal you had, and I agree with, can you get to 10-4 overall going into that UConn game? That would be huge.
By the way, Cincinnati, remember when Gino Auriemma went nuts over them firing their previous coach, who was a former player of his?
Yes.
Cincinnati's turned out just fine. They're 9-4 on the start to the season.
Yeah, but they're in the 120. They're in the 120 RPI.
True, but had an above expectations year last year, and that team they're a buzzsaw, man. They play tough, and she's a good coach. So it wasn't like the program was going completely downhill in that case. But nonetheless, UCF against ECU to start the
don't
conference
lose Sunday,
play.
Please.
Yeah, don't do it, guys. Noon on Sunday, January the 5th.
Give Jeremy Brenner a positive recap he can write.
And then they got a week off before that trip out to Cincinnati, and that game's on ESPN too. The ECU game is on CBS Sports Network, but the game at Cincinnati on the 12th is going to be on ESPN too. So
our women's basketball program is alternative programming to NFL playoffs, my friend. Huh?
Hey, it's not bad being second.
I'll be popping up the picture-in-picture. Let's do this, man. All right.
I thought you were doing PA.
That's right. I am doing PA. What am I saying? Anyway, so I'll be there for that. So.
Well, I'm glad we reminded you of that.
Yeah.
When Jeff says he'll be popping up picture-in-picture, he means he'll be calling PA while having the NFL
having the playoff game up on the laptop. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, which I may or may not have done in the past, by the way. Anyway, hope Steve Robertson's not listening to this. Anyway, let's take a break. When we return, oh my God, Murph, baseball news. That and more when we return. It's the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy. Follow us on at UCF_Banneret on Twitter, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret, and of course, blackandgoldbanneret.com. We are SB Nation's home for your UCF Knights, and that means we get to talk about conference baseball, baby.
Yes!
The American hid their preseason release. They put it out on Monday, December 30th, their 2020 preseason
I don't know what
baseball
you're talking about.
poll.
That's the perfect time out with college.
As selected by the coaches, UCF was picked 5th in the league. ECU was picked first with 6 first-place votes. Houston picked second with 3. Followed by UConn, Tulane, and then the Knights. USF was picked 7th. Wichita State in last. Preseason Player of the Year is Alec Burleson, the junior from ECU. Jake Kuchmaner from ECU is also the preseason Pitcher of the Year. The Knights did have one preseason all-conference team member, outfielder Dalton Wingo, who is one of the few guys returning from last year's team. But he's a preseason all-conference. So, Murph, I give you the floor.
Jeff?
I give you the floor on this. We got some baseball information. What do we do with it?
Well, since UCF, I mean, doesn't every team have to have someone on? I think every team has to have someone on the preseason all-conference team, right? Like, it would be wrong. Like, it would be wrong if there was nobody, right?
Well, there was one UConn player. So, I mean, I figure, like, in a year like this, if there's one team, if there's one time that someone's not going to be in there.
Does Memphis have a player?
UConn.
Does Memphis have a player?
Yeah, Memphis has Hunter Goodman, the catcher, and well-deserved, by the and also Alec Trella, the shortstop, or third baseman, I should say.
Yeah, every team has – well, wait, no, USF? Does USF?
Yeah, I was going to – I don't think
USF does not have its player on the
Murph,
team.
there you go.
Okay.
All right, I retract my previous statement. Okay, so
this isn't the MLB All-Star Game, Murph.
Right. No, then I feel good now because it's not like they're just giving it to Wingo because they need to fill out that space. They gave it to Wingo because he deserved it. And really, if you're looking for a guy on UCF's team, a team with basically 2 returning hitters who had consistent playing time last year, 2, and a pitching staff that looks good in the back end but has a lot of injury concerns and returning guys, you're not sure what you're going to get out of them in the front at the starting rotation. Dalton Wingo is a pretty obvious choice. I mean, a guy who, frankly, looked lost as a freshman, swung at everything, missed often, then comes back and realizes that his eyesight is screwed up. And lo and behold, he goes to the goggles, or glasses, whatever, specialized glasses.
Rec specs.
And has a breakout season. Almost hits 300. He drives in 44. He had that massive game. I believe it was against FAU. Before the last regular season series of the season, UCF played at FAU, and Dalton Wingo had 3 home runs and 6 RBIs against the Owls, and he really was for long stretches their best player, and that was as a sophomore. So now as a junior, he really is the leader, and he knows he's the leader on this team. He's talked about that since last year about being the leader on this team. So you know what? Obviously, he's a good pick. It is weird to me, and I don't know if I put any stock in this, and I shouldn't because preseason polls are complete trash. But every single one of them, do not care. But
even ones that come out on December 30th,
they're all awful. Yes, even the ones that the American Conference flicks out their door before shutting it quickly. Like
here's my question, by the way. Here's my question on this. Because obviously the baseball coaches vote on this. When did they vote on this? Like, the season doesn't start for another month. Like, you're telling me they got together and voted on this like in early December? Like, we couldn't.
This went out to the SIDs and like and the SIDs I'm sure were like, all right, let's fill it out, and you know what, let's get it in before the new year. Why not? Hey coach, you got anybody you want to play up in the preseason poll? Nah, just go ahead and send it in. All right, done.
They couldn't have possibly been more low key about this. But so UCF's ranked 5th. And, I mean, if we want to talk about that having any value at all, it's an interesting ranking considering all of the question marks and all of the unknowns that this team has. And I don't know if that tells me more about the strength of the conference that a team that like UCF, that, again, has 2 returning consistent hitters and a lot of injury question marks with the pitching staff, is in the middle of the pack of this conference. Maybe that's a bit concerning. However, I retort that by kind of saying maybe the people that vote on this don't really know what these teams are made of. So we're just sort of putting numbers in a hat, putting ECU 1 and everyone else sort of shakes out the way it is, and we'll see how it plays out.
I'll tell you what I'm excited for, Murph. I'll tell you what I'm excited for. Wichita State head coach Eric Wedge.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Former Seattle Mariner manager.
And the Indians.
And the Indians. I don't know why I don't remember him as a Mariner. By the way, for those who are interested, UCF baseball practice opens January 6th. That's Monday. I have no idea that's open to the public. It's probably not, but I'm kind of psyched. I might be like peering through like the fences of John Juliano Park just to catch a glimpse. Just
I can see Love Lady in the hat like looking up there being like, Murph, what the hell are you doing?
Oh, man.
Coach,
jeez Louise.
I'm just here for the sound of the ping. That's all I want. It's already been a cold winter. And yes, the hot stove has been hot over in the pros, but we haven't had anything good on there for the last couple of weeks, Eric.
What are you talking about? Hello. You're missing the Twins' big acquisitions, monster acquisitions that's going to make them a World Series contender, signing Rich Hill and Homer Bailey. That's not hot enough for you?
Eric told me about the Homer Bailey and Rich Hill signings as we were driving to the UCF basketball game a couple days ago, and I almost crashed my car because that's
you really almost did. I was really at that point. I'm like, yeah, we're not going to make it to the next decade. I was really
anyway. I'm psyched for baseball. I have no idea what to do with any preseason poll ever because they're just junk.
Let me ask you real quick on this. Could the 5th place be a sign of the coaches having respect for for Coach Lovelady and saying he'll figure it out, right? Like, he was picked near the bottom his first year and they won the league. I mean, maybe could we take that as a sign that people they're giving him the benefit of doubt where maybe they don't give it to other coaches?
Maybe so. Yeah, I agree. And also, if things break right with like Joe Sheridan and Trevor Holloway and the starters they could have and their bullpen looks pretty deep as is, this pitching staff could be really, really good. Like they could really silence a lot of offenses in this conference. It's the offense itself that I just have no idea. I mean, we've got Wingo, so he's in there, but even like Ben McCabe, who is really the other guy who played a lot last year, who's back. Lovelady did not give him glowing praises coming out of fall ball. He wanted to see more out of him. So I think every spot in that lineup is wide open going into practice, except for maybe Wingo, and that's it.
Well, we will find out on the 6th, won't we, Murph? By the way, this is now 8.5 minutes worth of baseball talk, which is about 5 minutes longer than I think you were anticipating, Brian. So
I mean, once the train starts rolling, once the train's coming down.
I knew it would happen. All right, so
reminder, folks, talking baseball with Murph exclusively here on the Black and Gold Banneret throughout the spring. You're home for UCF.
That's right.
Because no one else is doing this.
Valentine's Day, by the way, as a reminder, is the season opener. Friday, February 14th, 6 p.m.
There's more love than baseball, right, Murph?
6 weeks away. By the way, guys, I mean, it happens all the time, so I don't know why I'm so hyped about it, geeked about it this year. That's like coinciding directly with so many pitchers and catchers reporting in the pros for Arizona and Florida spring training leagues. I mean, we're so close. We're so close to real baseball. Oh, my heart, be still.
You know what's even closer? The NFL playoffs. And we wanted to talk a little bit about. All right, so the NFL playoffs are set. Eric, you brought up a good little thing that we can talk about right now is UCF players who have a shot at a Super Bowl. Let's see. So let's take a look at the UCF alumni right now. It begins and ends basically with the New Orleans Saints, right? You have Latavius Murray, you have Traquan Smith. They're the best chance. Is that right?
Yes, I do. I think it's the best. It's the best team. Obviously, Latavius kind of taking the Mark Ingram spot in that running back field, and Traquan in receivers. Murph, you saw them in person this year. You saw them in New Orleans when they beat Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
What was your impression? I mean, you have the Saints, and it's funny. All the UCF guys, I don't know what it is. It's just coincidence or not. They're all in the NFC. It seems like your best shot because you got Seattle, with Shaquille Griffin and Shaquem Griffin, they're going to be playing this weekend in Philadelphia. So the fact they lost the Niners game there and now have to go on the road probably hurts their chances the most. You got the Vikings also on the road against the Saints. You could have, guys. This is what I'm rooting for this weekend. Okay. I want Mike Hughes covering Traquan Smith at some point in that game.
Ooh, that would be fun.
That
would be fun. Wouldn't that be fun?
I mean, that would be some good there. But unfortunately, UCF's going to get one of the UCF players are going to get eliminated in that football game between the Vikings and the Saints. There, Murph, and you're confident that it will not be the Saints.
No, I think the Saints are the best team in the NFC. They are my pick to make it to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, and probably face. I would say, you know what? I'm going to say it's Chiefs Saints. I'm going to go with the Chiefs upsetting the Ravens in the AFC title game.
We have any? We don't have any Ravens out there, obviously. Let's not forget Jordan Akins on the Houston Texans too.
That's correct.
So yeah, and 10-6, and I mean, he's out there. I mean, that's something that we'll have to keep an eye on too.
They should beat the Bills. They should beat the Bills.
You're right. Yeah. Guy, we need to. Well, how about Devin Singletary? By the way, for the.
By the way, if Jeremy Brenner was on this show, he says nothing is a certain with the Houston Texans.
Yeah,
it's guaranteed.
Well, especially when Buffalo's chief running back out there is Devin Singletary, who's had a great rookie year. The kid from FAU, who was coached by Kevin Smith down there at FAU. So that'll be an interesting matchup. I mean, we talked about the NFC. Not much really to say there, other than Seattle and Minnesota and New Orleans. So and nobody on the Niners, from what I understand. But yeah. So we do have nonetheless, there's your UCF alumni that you're gonna have to be watching for here in the NFL playoffs coming up. That would be fun seeing Traquan matched up with Mike Hughes. Boy, that would be a throwback to some 2017 practices, I'm sure. No.
Absolutely, right? I mean, they go head-to-head during the undefeated season.
Give me some of that, man. I can't wait. That's
By the way, here's the list. UCF players that have won a Super Bowl. All right? DJ Killings was on the Eagles, I think, practice squad when they won the Super Bowl against the Patriots a couple years ago.
He got a ring.
Ja Reed was with the Ravens, was inactive. He was hurt, but he was on the roster when they beat the 49ers. Up in New Orleans, ironically enough, in the Super Bowl. Probably the most famous was Josh Sitton, Atari Bigby, and Mike Greco, who's on the practice squad for the Packers when they beat the Steelers in February 6, 2011 edition of the Super Bowl. And one that is kind to both of your hearts here, Darcy Johnson, who was inactive and injured, but was on the roster when the Giants knocked down and take down those ugly, undefeated Patriots back in 08.
He was a contributor. Can't say he wasn't a contributor.
And thanks to Asante Samuel for dropping that interception in that Super Bowl, which is okay because he's already got multiple rings from the Patriots during his run with New England. So
I still say that was a tough catch, but anyway.
Fair enough. We'll appreciate that. Other notables: Cornell, Charles Lee were on the Buccaneers roster when they beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl in San Diego. Mike Grudoria, the center for the Rams when they beat the Titans.
I think he was the first one to win a Super Bowl, right? But he wasn't the first UCF player to. No, he wasn't the first UCF player to win a Super Bowl.
No, Ted Wilson played on the Redskins when they beat the Broncos.
Oh wow, that was way back, '87.
Way back, baby.
That was the strike year. I know that Sean Jefferson was on the San Diego Chargers when they lost to the Niners in '95. So.
Now, Grudoria is the first player to play in the Super Bowl because Ted Wilson did not play in the game. Grudoria did. So that's their little trivia there.
Okay. All right. Wait. How could Grudoria be the first one to play when Sean Jefferson was playing for the Chargers before that?
No, win. I'm saying
win. Okay. My bad.
Yeah. Gotcha. My bad. My apologies.
All right. So there's your NFL playoff update.
And according to Murph, we're going to be adding to that list. We're adding to that list if Murph's prediction prognosis is correct.
I hope. Pretty good chance with the Saints this year, I think, but better than usual. So it's a good NFL playoffs this year, I think.
As long as it's not the Patriots, we're cool with it. Let's take out the Patriots as soon as possible and send Tom Brady out to the Chargers. All right, let's go.
It's a good NFL playoffs aside from the representative of the NFC East.
Can we take a TO right there? Can we get like a 30-second like aside here? Eric Lopez is on the record now saying that Tom Brady is going to the Chargers and is not stuttering about it. What are you on?
Seems very confident. That seemed a little overly confident, Eric.
Have you seen him play this year? You guys benched him in the fantasy championship against me, which I appreciated very much. But nonetheless, you benched him for a good reason. He hasn't been that great. And you really, I mean, his contract's up. He's a free agent.
Murphy should have.
You think he just resigns? We
should have known better than to trust Kirk Cousins in a primetime game, Murph. Never again.
Yeah, because that really means something. I'm so sick of that. It's dumb. Absolute stupid idiot. No, there's no. I mean, if Tom Brady is not playing for another team in his NFL career.
Do you think he's back with the Patriots, or you think he retires?
No, he's back with the Patriots. He will not retire.
At what price? You think he takes a discount? I don't think New England's going to overpay him.
I don't know what discount. I mean, the prices for NFL quarterbacks are through the roof. I think Mike Glennon's still getting paid by the Bears.
Mike Glennon.
Yeah.
Oh,
those are the days.
All right. Where do you fall on this, Jeff? You're the tiebreaker.
Tom Brady. We will never see Tom Brady play in a uniform other than the New England Patriots. I think he comes back.
All right. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think he comes back. Let me ask you this: When's Jimmy Garoppolo's contract up? Oh no, he just signed that big contract, didn't he?
Yeah, he signed a big deal. He's not going to be available for a while.
All right. Well.
Although he might be, because let's be honest, he's not the reason why that team's successful. I mean, really, Jimmy's okay.
Wow, Murph just dropping. Woo!
Jimmy G's a fine. Jimmy G is like he's a fine little quarterback. He's not the reason why the Niners.
He's a handsome gentleman.
Getting a first round.
All right, so 2018, February of 2018, he signed a 5-year, $137 million contract. So he's got 3 years left. I bet you the Patriots try and snag him up in free agent. Brady plays 3 more years. Gets to 45, they get Garoppolo back, and the worst dynasty ever continues. Anyway. All right, no more NFL talk, please. We're making people angry. Coming up next, when we return, we'll talk about our first 2 all-decade teams getting released. We released our all-decade football team, and we had some debate up on social media about this, Eric Lopez, which is exactly what you were hoping for. Stick around. We'll be right back. It's the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you here, and we got some... well, let's talk a little hashtag content, shall we, boys? You may have noticed last week we released our all-decade UCF football and volleyball teams. We're going to be adding to these teams as we go by. But I want to start with volleyball first because it's shorter.
And you got a lot of heat for it, man.
No, I did not. I did not get a lot of heat on the volleyball.
Oh, that was the other one. All right,
no, that was the other one we got a little bit of heat for. But Jordan Pingle, Meredith Murphy are the liberos. Middle blockers, Delana Sarden, Lauren Corey, and Kaylee's Green. Outside hitters, McKenna Melville, Kia Bright, Jayla Hervey. Setters, Aaron Olson, Rachel Vuxen, and Marie Reederova. And right sides, Anne-Marie Watson, Abby Fleener, and Allie Sable. No real arguments there, but I was like, wow, Todd Dashnick pulled in a lot of talent this decade. Because I put up, all the key stats for some of these players, and excuse me, you have the first, your 2 liberos are number 1 and 2 all-time career digs. You've got 2 of the top 5 career assist people, 2 of the top 7 in kills all-time, and 1 who's going to be up there in a couple years in Melville. So, yeah, so I mean, we got a lot of talent at UCF over time. So,
let me
that was fun to check out.
Quick questions, because you picked that out and did a great job.
All right.
What was the hardest part as you were going through this? Was there a specific position that was the toughest because it just had so much more depth than another position? What was the biggest challenge as you were going through this?
Oh, I wanted to pick only 2 setters, but I couldn't. I picked 3. And then the other one was, there's some clear delineations, but we had some good middle blockers over time. But I thought that it kind of, the more I thought about it, the more it kind of shook itself out. And we had the outside hitters were the ones that had it was kind of a layup. We had McKenna Melville, Kia Bright, and Jale Hervey. They're three of the best hitters that I think I've ever seen. Obviously, you try and shuffle some things around and try and fit in the people who you really believe are the ones who are most most deserving out of everybody. But yeah, I think we got it right. So
last question. Who, in your opinion, is the volleyball player of the decade? Who the candidates would be in that scenario? For those that are curious, because I think that's going to be fun as we go through this process with all the sports. Not only like we create these teams, but who was the signature player or the best player of the decade for a lot of these programs? I think it's going to be a fun debate.
I think it comes down to three players. I think it's Jordan Pingle, Delana Sarden, and McKenna Melville. Right now, if I had to choose between the three of them, it's really hard to do because it's not a slight towards anyone that I don't pick. But I think I'd have to go with Delana. She's a three-time All-American, and the only three-time All-American UCF's had. Not to say that others shouldn't have been deserving of that. We might see McKenna Melville. She's already won been named AVCA All-American Honorable Mention twice in 2 years, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her do it all 4 years, which is very hard to do. I did find this interesting little tidbit here with Eric. So UCF's all-time leader in kills is Renata Menchikova with 2,151 in 4 years. All right? McKenna Melville, through 2 years, has 1,076. So if you do the math, if McKenna Melville duplicates her first 2 years in her second 2 years, she will end up beating out Renata Menchikova for the all-time kills lead at UCF by exactly 1 kill.
That would be impressive, too, because this is now, and then this era compared to that era is a little different from a scoring standpoint, right?
Much different.
Back then you had more opportunities for kills because you can only get points via the serve.
Right.
Now you get points on each serve. Doesn't matter each side of the ball.
Right. We have rally scoring now is what you're talking about, as opposed to back in the day when we had side out scoring. Wow. So yeah, that would be impressive in and of itself. And she also has 805 digs for her career, which if you duplicate that, 1,600 digs would also put her top 10 in that category. So easily top 10. I think probably top 5. So McKenna Mill was on her way to a really amazing career at UCF, and we're in a high point right now for UCF volleyball. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, she has a chance to be the best player of all time. But Sarden gets the nod as far as the decade with he's being a 3-time All-American and leading him to the 2014 conference title, and then Pingle's probably the best defensive player, right? Just because being a libero.
She was the best I ever saw. And never got the recognition that she should have. That was the part. Like, she should have been a 3-time All-American, but wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the part that makes me upset about that, is that she for some reason never got enough credit, and that's too bad. But we're trying to give her some more credit here on this team. So that takes us to our football all-decade team. Murph, you had some input on this. Eric, you had some input on this. So first of all, I'm not going to read the whole team out to you. Just some notables. Clicks. Yeah, we want the clicks. Make sure you take a look at it on blackandgoldbanneret.com. We did do 2 teams. We did a first team and a second team. We picked Mackenzie Milton as the quarterback on the first team, Blake Bortles as the quarterback on the second team. There were some debates here and there. I'll pull a few of them up from Twitter. First things first. Mike Hughes being the second team corner, Eric Lopez, you had the heaviest hand in choosing this. What'd you say? What was your reasoning behind that?
Well, I think.
Well, let me rephrase that question. Let me rephrase that question. Is the reason why you picked Mike Hughes as a second-team corner, not a first-team corner, because he only played 1 year?
I mean, that played a role in it. Yes, only a 1 year. But let's remember, and we get caught sometimes in recency bias. You remember what the most recent thing happened. And let's be honest, there's been a percentage of our audience that has hopped on UCF football 3 years ago, so they may not know players that played this decade. I will let you all know, this might surprise some, we actually had great players the entire decade. I know it's a shocking development, but we actually have had great players throughout the decade. This just didn't happen the last 3 years. And one of them being Jacoby Glenn, who I think has kind of been forgotten because he left early, controversially, because it didn't really bode well for him for the draft, although he worked out because he played for the Bears in the NFL. Jacoby Glenn was a defensive player of the year in 2014, so he definitely should have been the first-team corner. And then Josh Robinson, I would argue, was Mike Hughes before Mike Hughes, except he was there for 3 years, had a great career, had 10 interceptions, 176 tackles, was an All-American himself, and he was here for 3 years. So to me, while Mike Hughes was great and he got, and people were bringing up, well, he was a first-round draft, but that doesn't matter in this discussion. It's not about who gets drafted higher. It's who's the best players of the decade in UCF. And Josh Robinson, who did a phenomenal job in the Liberty Bowl against A.J. Green and was a part of the reason why they won that game against Georgia, absolutely is warranted of being on the first-team corner. Cornerback, by far the way, was by far the hardest position to narrow it down, by far. I mean, we have so much depth in the secondary that we left out great players. A.J. Bouye couldn't even cut the list despite his great career, but he was only a second-team all-conference player once in his career here at UCF. It's blossomed him to being a better NFL player, quite honestly.
Right. Yeah, I think that part is actually forgotten. Is that AJ, when he was here, he was good. He wasn't great, and then he went to the NFL, and he's really blossomed into a very good player.
Like, if we would have bet 10 years ago, who are you more likely to bet will have a better NFL career, Josh Robinson or A.J. Bouye? We would have said Josh Robinson, but it turned out to be A.J., and credit to him on that. But he didn't make it. I know we got some people say, well, what about Shaquille Griffin?
He was another guy who got lost in the shuffle, too.
Right, he got lost in the shuffle, but he never made all-conference. And again, he's not better than Jacoby Glenn, not better than Josh Robinson, not better than Mike Hughes, who we have, as you mentioned, a second team there, or Neville Clark, Murph, who has been part of the most successful era of UCF football, and he's been a big part of that in the cornerback position, has been a two-time all-conference player.
Murph, did you have any objections?
Really not many ardent ones, the ones that I had with much conviction. I thought this was a really, really well-done list on both teams. I brought up, when we were discussing it, I brought up Neville Clark, just because yes, he has started a lot of games, he played a lot of games since university at corner, but nothing really stuck out to me, as far as like his impact. There's nothing that jumps out at you about Neville and his play, and like there's no moment that I think Neville has had. There you go, like that's the Neville Clark moment that really makes you remember, what he's done for the university. But I think he gets on this list, and probably well deserved, just due to the longevity and starting as many games as he did. He did make, I think, 2 all conference lists. So yeah, that's fine. But Eric's right. There is just so many good players that UCF has been blessed with this past decade, and that is so true in the back end of the defensive backfield, and that is continuing into 2020, which sort of foreshadows what I'll talk about here later on in the show.
Wow! All right. There was one person said, "Hey, why not Justin Tukes at tight end over Adam Nisley, for example?"
You're pulling. I mean, that's a fair argument. You could go either way. There's not a bad answer. I think we went with Nisley.
Tukes, by the way, only had 30 career catches. Adam had 38. How many touchdowns?
Right, they both were honoree. I think both were all honoree at one point during their careers. I don't know what
Tukes had 3 touchdowns. Nisley had 2 for his career. I mean, that one was kind of a toss-up. We went with Nisley, but I based partly on a little bit more production. But that was when your tight ends were blocking tight ends under O'Leary. So
yes, correct. So, yeah, I would agree with that.
One person was like, "Why didn't you have J.J. Wharton on the first team as a wide receiver?" I'm like, "Because we had Gabriel Davis and Traquan Smith on the first team. That's why."
And you were very you liked that, Murph, right? You definitely had no issues with Gabe getting there. I mean, his numbers are very comparable to Traquan, who I think is the best receiver in this decade. But Gabe definitely is in that list, and I agree. I think he's a better all-around receiver than JJ.
Absolutely. There's no argument as to who the starting 2 receivers are.
And I wanted to pour one out real quick for our boy Chris Martin, who we wanted to get him in there. We couldn't find like any, we were looking for a place to put him. Like we basically had one more tackle and one less guard. So we decided to put Chris as the right guard on the second team. And he actually tweeted it out. He's like, wait a minute, man. I played tight end. I played defensive line. I played offensive tackle. He's like, and you guys stick me in guard, and I tweeted him back. I was like, what's one more? And he sent me back a GIF. He was like, that's right.
Well, and I think that's very appropriate, right? Because look at how that shows how versatile he was, right? He's one of those guys you can move him around if you need to help your team out. And I'm glad we had him on. Offensive line was very underrated, very tough too.
Yeah, that was hard.
The guard. That was a very underrated position to kind of figure out. So. It was fun. I know some people thought Mike Hughes should have been the kick returner, but, I mean, you can't.
Well, he was kick returner and punt returner on the second team. But, man, people forget how good Quincy McDuffie was.
Right. 10, what? He had like 9, 10.
He had 6 touchdowns. Yeah. 2 of them, by the way, in one game. I mean, that's
right.
That's one of the most remarkable career. People forget how dangerous he was back there. 27.8 yard average.
Phenomenal. And you guys brought it up last week about, Mike Hughes has great numbers return-wise, but, if he's here only longer than a year, who's to say those numbers don't drop because he doesn't get as many opportunities.
Right.
And teams different, maybe defend him differently. Who knows? But look, I mean, Mike Hughes, by the way, is on the team as a cornerback, punt returner, and kick returner. So trust me, we're not disrespecting Mike. We're actually using him. I think him and Josh Robinson are the only 2 players that are on multiple positions on this football team.
That's correct.
That's a pretty good. So trust me, we're the Mike Hughes fan club here.
I think someone got at me and said, "Where's Otis Anderson?" And I kind of get that, but I can't see putting him above. Like, I think Storm Johnson might be the only argument, but that's not really an argument. I would
be.
Storm was all conference and the featured back on the Fiesta Bowl team.
People forget how good he was in 2013.
Yes.
He was
really,
he was excellent in 2013. I mean, that was
Greg McCrae's been honored by the conference. He's been the more featured guy during this run, and Adrian was an all-conference player, and I think is more of a signature play. Unfortunately, no room for Otis there. Maybe next decade for him. It's off to now that he's coming back. I mean, that'll be good.
Well, the rules are you had to have played at least one season from 2010 to 2019. So Otis is coming back, which would make him eligible for our All-Decade 2020 team. So
I'll make a bold prediction. Otis Anderson will be on the 2030, whatever this is,
the All-Decade, the All-2020s team.
Yeah,Ll do that.
All right.
Wow. Old. Put this in a bottle here.
We'll be in our 40s, man.
All right. So check out the entire teams on Black Gold Banneret. Keep the feedback coming. We like the feedback. In fact, a lot of you gave back with the feedback, and we made a tweak on the roster thanks to you. Many of you are listening, as well as Eric Henry, our friend from the show, Brandon Helwig, some of the message people at UCFsports.com. Brandon Alexander. You're right. I whiffed, and I'll take responsibility. I forgot that Brandon Alexander moved to safety towards the end of his career after being a corner. I was thinking of him as a corner this whole time. That's why we didn't have him on the original list. But once we saw, he's safety. Darn right. We moved him to he's on the safety spot in the second team. So thank you, all of you, for the feedback. So we do listen to your feedback, so keep them coming.
All right, so let's wrap this thing up. Murph, you said something about 2020. Go ahead, Eric.
Wait, all-decade football player.
All-decade?
Yeah, who's the best player all-decade? Best player. Is it Mackenzie Milton, Shaquem Griffin, Blake Bortles? I think that's probably the 3 finalists.
I'm going to go with Shaquem. I'm going to go with Shaquem Griffin. The arc of his career, where he came from, it's kind of a microcosm of UCF in and of itself. Played all 4 years. And by the end of his career was the best player on the field on that side of the ball. And it's not just because of the story. It's because he was damn good. He's an excellent football player. He's my pick. Murph, what about you?
Yeah, I tweeted out earlier this week when there was that, popular Twitter meme going around of who's your favorite player of the decade. I tweeted out a gif of Shaquem because he is my favorite player of the decade. I don't know if he's the best. I think it's still McKenzie's the best player because, a 2-time conference player of the year and the star at the most important position of the last 2 seasons. It's probably McKenzie over Shaquem, but I'll grant that it's close.
Eric?
Oh, man, that's tough. You can make a strong case for Griffin because I think there's a wider gap between him and who the second best player defensively is in this decade, whereas while McKenzie's the best quarterback of this decade, you could make an argument for Blake Bortles considering he ran a pro set offense, and I do wonder if you flip him around, would McKenzie be as successful running a pro set offense? However, I'm going to go based on what Murph said. Mackenzie Milton is a 2-time conference player of the year, a top 10 Heisman finalist, a top 10 voting finisher at the Heisman back-to-back years, and was undefeated in 2017 and was on his way perhaps to being undefeated before the injury. So I kind of have to go with Milton, but I do think there's a strong argument for Shaquem Griffin with the impact he made because I don't think they win that Auburn game without Shaquem Griffin, and he was a defensive player of the year in 2016 and was a phenomenal player. And I think we were spending a good chunk of 2018 wondering, man, this team misses Shaquem Griffin.
Yeah, that's somebody who personified, I think, for me, he's a guy who personifies what UCF is all about, what UCF football is all about. And
he might
overcoming
be
the odds and to become great. And that's, I don't know, that's where I feel, that's what I feel about it.
He may not be to Murph's point, he may not be the football player of the decade, but he's definitely maybe sort of like the UCF person of the decade, athlete of the decade. There are intangibles there that definitely gets him awarded for something, for sure, his impact.
All right.
But,
feel free to yell at us on Twitter and in the comments about it on our all-decade teams. There was one guy. I remember there was one guy on Twitter who was like, "How do you guys not have?" He mentioned 2 guys. He mentioned one guy who was on the team, and then 2 guys who didn't play this decade. And I was like, "Dude, come on!" Like we didn't.
Fair, yeah. There was a Jeff Gottfried one, which
Godfrey.
He had great
yeah, he's an interesting. He's kind of like Otis Anderson, right? It's kind of like he
switch positions. He's not going to crack the wide receiving list, and he's not better than Milton or Bortles. And
if we had more than 2 receivers, I wouldn't mind putting him in there. I wouldn't mind putting him 2 guys in the receiving spot that I wish we could have gotten in there are Rennell Hall and Jeff Godfrey. I wish we could have gotten those 2 guys in there. So
yeah, Rennell definitely could make a case for that. You're right about that.
So all right, Murph, you said something about 2020 that sounded important.
Yeah, speaking of receivers.
Well, what's important about 2020 college football right now? I don't know. It's certainly not Georgia Baylor Sugar Bowl because that's not important.
Certainly not important enough to Baylor right now. But anyway,
it's apparently they don't want it enough. They weren't motivated to beat Georgia. Auburn once again not motivated. What a shocker. I'm just doing a really thin skeletal 2-deep depth chart that I'll put on the site on Thursday of every position. And, there's some questions that this team has to answer next year. And I didn't want to go too deep on it because there will still be additions to this team and possibly subtractions as well, guys. Let's be honest. The NFL draft deadline is not until January 20th. and some people might still transfer as well. So, but just looking at the roster that's coming back next year, as we know it right now, I think one thing that stands out is if this team as currently constituted comes back, that back five, the nickel five they got back there at the secondary, with maybe a healthy Brandon Moore, and then Tay Gowan, Richie Grant, Antoine Collier, and Aaron Robinson. I mean, arguably the best secondary, I would say, in UCF football history, if Brandon was healthy.
Yeah.
We talk about how deep this team has been in the decade at corner, and you look at that five, that quintet of talent, potential, all coming back for another year playing together. Again, if Brandon Moore is healthy and none of those guys go to the draft, which I'm not 100% sold on they wouldn't, that is an amazing group of five that I can't wait to see play, and hopefully we do. And so I'm going through that with the other positions. That'll be out on Wednesday. I did want to mention one quick thing, that this podcast has mentioned how sports movies are overrated. The Twins are signing Homer Bailey. We talked about the NFL playoffs for a while that had nothing to do with UCF. Then we talked about Tom Brady going to the Chargers, and I mentioned how Jimmy Garoppolo is overrated as well. This is why we are your home for UCF sports.
Yes.
Why are we doing them on New Year's Day there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the lean part of the year, this hashtag content.
And by the way, you think highly enough of it, because I know you discussed this when we were chatting about this all decade behind the scenes. If Bam Moore would have been healthy this year and had another great year, he could have been on this all-decade team we just released too, if it wasn't for the injury.
Probably. I mean, probably. Yeah, I mean, really could. I mean, technically, even though Novell, has played 4 years. I mean, well, really 2.5, kind of. He's been on the team 4 years, but really started 2.5. I thought Bam's been the better corner. Bam has been the better corner. So yeah, if he had another full season, probably would deserve that spot.
Yeah. So we've got, I don't know. Hopefully, maybe if he comes back next year, he might make the 2020 team. So we got that going on. We've also got our transfer portal tracker. More all-decade teams coming. We're going to try and get baseball, basketball, and softball out this week, Eric. I'm going to try and do that, if not into next week.
That means, you know what that means? Next week, Murph breaks down the all-UCF baseball decade team on Talking Baseball with Murph.
That's right.
Fine. Anything for me to scratch this itch right now, because I need a fix. I will say, just teasing for our future basketball all-decade team, I thought we had a pretty good discussion and a pretty decent debate about who should be on that team, and I thought there was not contention, but I certainly think something that I disagreed with, that maybe, I don't know if we fixed it or if we're staying with.
It's definitely divided. It's divided the staff, because as we're recording, there are people, I'm not, without giving away, that put in more input that disagree with your input, Murph. It's not me. It's other people in the staff. We have a big staff, and you're right.
I mean, those people are clearly wrong. I mean, clearly wrong.
Wow.
Well, yeah. That was Brian Murphy, everybody.
We can debate that Murph bomb another time. We do have our football transfer tracker that's currently up right now. By the way, two former UCF players going to Alabama State. We found out this weekend. Quadri Jones, the quarterback who has a career 517 passer rating at UCF. I just love getting that stat in there.
You love that. You love it.
Yeah. And James Collins, a redshirt freshman offensive lineman who played in only one game. He's also going to Alabama State. Malik Barrow, redshirt junior defensive lineman, announced he's moving on to Rutgers. We're still waiting on a couple other guys, and we'll be hearing about incoming people from the transfer portal, as well as, I'm sure, over as we finish up and head into the new year. Eric, what do you got coming up this week?
Well, I'll be helping you out with the all-decade content that we'll be releasing, obviously, as well. I'll be covering the Magic games throughout the weekend. Is my week busy there? But
man,
we'll have
Jonathan Isaac. That one hurt today. Oh, God.
I didn't see it live. Thanks for the spoiler. But, yes, he got hurt. What else is new with the Magic? So I'll be covering Magic, but I will be helping you out all decade. Really, go ahead, folks. And, again, we want your feedback on this because you're a part of this as well. If you have disagreements, feel free. That's what's fun about this. That's why I love doing this project because it'll bring conversation, bring feedback. And as Jeffrey mentioned, we're going to have all decade teams and other decade content for the next couple of weeks there to kind of make you think and make you kind of discuss and agree and disagree. So that I'm looking forward to kind of helping, assisting on this big project, and look forward to Murph yelling at our staff that they're wrong.
Well, really, too. I mean, obviously Jeff did the volleyball team because that is Jeff's heart, really. But really, most of this project is a Eric Lopez joint. Even the baseball team, he sent to me, and I looked at him like that's about as good as I could do. So most of what you're seeing is due to Eric Lopez and his encyclopedic knowledge of UCF athletics over the last decade.
Well, Eric throws the first pitch, right? And then the rest of us, we try to kind of figure it all out from there. So,
try to give you the formation, and you guys can adjust to it as you would like, tweak it. There. By the way, I spoke to Brandon Alexander, who's a fan of the show. We're going to have him on later on in the year. So he's cool, by the way, that he's okay that we kind of forgot to have him on in the first draft. So
he's okay that we totally forgot about him.
Good. He's good. He's doing well for himself.
Brandon, we're really sorry. We fixed it. We fixed it. So
that's the key. We adjusted it.
That's right. So we get it right. So all right. Let's wrap this thing up. Don't forget to follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF_Banneret, Facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret. You can follow us individually. Jeff_Sharon, Eric Lopez Elo, Spokes_Murphy. Don't forget to follow Luke Saris. Don't forget to follow Derek Warden, who had an amazing photo gallery from the bowl game, over 100 photos, all of which you would want to check out. He has become the great artiste on our staff as well. Follow Jeremy Brenner, who I know will be busy doing a lot of Texan stuff this week. Godspeed, Jeremy. Good luck. And many more that we and also Anthony Lenahan, who will be doing some off-season breakdowns, which we're really looking forward to on that. So lots of us to follow, lots to talk about as we move forward into 2020. Gentlemen, Happy New Year, and to quote Barbara Walters, this is 2020.
Thanks, Sherry O'Terry.
So for all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret,
I'm Jeff Sharon. You need to watch more movies.
I do need to watch more movies. That's my New Year's resolution, is watch more movies. Is to get myself back in there, get myself in the game on movies for the first time. So
Jeff, do you know, because the Oscars are like a month away. By the way, you can add this to the UCF podcast later. Jeff, the Oscars are a month away. I've seen 30 movies so far. I have 11 left to see until I feel like I'm comfortable with the Oscars. So I feel like if you and I can just match up, just go see 11. That's all I ask. See 11 films over the next 31, 32 days. You feel good about yourself.
Okay, must they be this year's films, or can they be like, ones that I haven't seen but should have?
That's fine. I'll give you that. I'm going to go see how things are coming out this year and early 2020. But you could just 11. Like, I'm watching 11, you watch 11. It's not that hard.
All right.
By the way, Adam Sandler just came out with a movie with Kevin Garnett, which you've seen, Murph. That's not a sports movie?
Well, it's a sports gambling movie. It's not really sports movie. But
you even said it's pretty accurate, right, to what happens? I mean, you guys are saying all sports movies aren't accurate? Come on.
Oh, no. What Jeff and I think are saying about sports movies, again, this is the UCF podcast. We're talking about how it's the unrealistic portrayal of sports as sort of the dramatic sense. Uncut Gems, which, by the way, if you like movies that are really frantic, up pace, things that sort of crowd your senses, this is the kind of movie for you. That movie, though, all its sports scenes are just taken from real games. They just show you the archived clips of actual games that were played. They don't put the Hollywood spin on real events. They just show you the actual game.
Yeah. By the way, you sports movie directors out there, do not have your PA guy do play-by-play like he's the radio guy. That's wrong. Okay? They don't do that. Stop it.
Yeah.
That's a big pet peeve of mine, man. Let me tell you. Oh, my God. Anyway.
I disagree with both of you. Sports movies, like Roy Hobbs, that was an accurate portrayal of the Kirk Gibson home run against Dennis Eckersley in the Dodgers World Series. So I don't care what.
That movie came out. That movie came out before.
Whoops. Oh,
yeah.
darn.
How could that?
All right, Charlie Sheen.
Is that any more embarrassing than me admitting that I have never seen The Natural?
That's fine. I mean, it's a fine film. It's better than Field of Dreams, which let's be honest.
Yeah, I really liked Field of Dreams.
Pretty overrated. Look, Major League is good because of the comedy. I don't watch that film because I want to see good baseball scenes. I want to see funny baseball scenes, and they're executed well. But when I watch dramatic sports films that want to hold true to the source, then give me.
I just thought of a project for you here. All right.
Yeah. I can't wait.
You might wait till the summer. I want you to do a movie, an article on the 2017 UCF football season and who would play who in the movie. Who's playing Scott Frost? Who's playing Mackenzie Milton? Who's playing Danny White? Huh?
Oh, come on. We know who's going to play Scott Frost. That's the easy one. The guy from Friday Night Lights. What's his name?
That coach. I forgot his name.
No. Jesse Plemons.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, Jesse Plemons has to play Scott Frost. There's no one else who can play Scott Frost.
I'm trying to think, like, who looks like Mackenzie with that sort of, like, wry, crooked smile. Oh, man.
Hey, you got time
This is a good one. All right. So this is the last thing. All right, fans.
This podcast is completely
we've gone way off the rails here in the last here with
This is our fault for trying to do a show on New Year's night. We should have thought better of it.
With 2 seconds left on the shot clock. Listen, we're doing it. If you do a movie about 2017 UCF football, send us your actors and actresses who would be on the cast. All right, and send it to us at UCF_Banneret on Twitter.
There you go.
And we will evaluate this. And Murph, I think you and I will work on this. We'll work on this for next week. How about that?
Yeah, no, I'm all about it. Like
I'm in on it.
Oh, I just saw it. How about Tom Holland, the new Spider? Well, not the new Spider-Man, but he's Spider-Man. Tom Holland is Mackenzie Milton. That actually works because he's like fresh-faced. He could definitely do that. I'm so into this right now.
Aren't you happy I brought this up there? You got a project here, right
there.
So
geeky about this right now.
This should you could even write this right leading up to Oscars week.
I could.
This could be right up there when we did the WrestleMania feature with Greg Lovelady. This could be right up there all time.
This could. I actually like this a lot.
Are we gonna put? Are we gonna put Kenan Thompson as Jordan Johnson?
Ooh, that's interesting. I mean, Kenan not really known as a big time silver screen actor, but
known for comedy.
Yeah. He'd add that sort of jovial moments to the film there. I don't know, Shaquem, you could you would need maybe like a Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan's gonna be Adrian Killens, I think.
See, aren't you loving? See, and I got another movie pitch for you. I'm just gonna pitch movies here. UCF themes here. Okay?
I'm literally sweating.
You're gonna love this one, Murph. You're gonna love this one because you were at this game. UCF Duke. This could be like Hoosiers, except instead of Hoosiers, it's Knights.
Except they lose at the end.
Oh, that's up to Murph. He wants to change the script or not. He can produce this. But that could be the other one. UCF basketball against Duke. Who's Taco Fall? Who's BJ Taylor? We could play some movies here. This could be the new version of Hoosiers, except it's called.
You can't have anybody. You can't have. See, that's hard because you really can't have anybody play Taco Fall without being really patronizing. That's really difficult. Like obviously, guys. Obviously, Don Cheadle is Johnny Dawkins. That's not even a question.
Don't spoil everything. Don't give away all your content here, Murph. This is right now. I'm telling you, on Oscars week, this is what you're going to put out on Black and Gold Banneret. I've given you so much material here. It's unbelievable. You should thank me here. This is Oscars week content right here. Movies, Murph breaking down UCF themed movies. And if you all have other movie ideas for UCF themes, we're all about it. Clearly.
Yeah.
I'm in.
I like this a lot. I'm gonna think about this. Then I'm gonna go get drunk and see Cats, and I'll come back and work on it some more.
There you go.
From what I hear, you better get really drunk.
Can't wait.
All right, let's pull it back on the rails only to bring it back into the station. For Brian and Eric, I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We'll catch you next week. Happy New Year, everybody.